that's really a beautiful experience and a humbling experience because you realize what you're creating has value and people see value in that. And so
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Shay and I make career, financial well-being and lifestyle content. Today I'm joined by the lovely Micheline. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me.
So in today's video, the topic is basically how to balance a 9 to 5 with a side business. Now, you guys have sent me quite a few questions. In fact, you sent me quite a few questions for a while, so apologies that this video is so late, but you sent me some questions about how do I do it? What are the things to think about? How do you balance it? All of that good stuff. And I really didn't think that I could do this topic justice by myself, which is why I have brought Micheline along to have this conversation. So do you want to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. Well, I work full-time in ocean and climate policy, specifically focusing on ocean-based climate action and ocean equity and justice. And I'm also the founder and CEO of Althea Therapy, which is a digital platform to connect with culturally responsive mental health professionals and resources. It originally started in Canada to give access to culturally responsive therapists in Canada. All our professionals are licensed in Canada, but we also have our online group learning experiences, which are open to everybody, which aren't limited by geography.
I love that. I love that. How do I follow that? So yeah, for those that might be new to my channel or don't know, so I work in financial crime prevention. I head up a financial crime operations team. So that's my day job. And on the side, I have a wedding planning and coordination business. So I thought that's why it'd be good for us to talk because we're doing quite different things. But I think sometimes we do share the same sort of sentiments on the challenges of balancing the two.
Definitely.
So yeah, we'll go into some of the questions that you guys sent. We'll both probably take turns answering it. Okay, so the first question I got was, what was the inspiration behind starting your business?
So I would say, like many other small businesses, I started, at the height of the pandemic. Mine in particular started because of, the rise in anti-Black racism and anti-Asian discrimination globally. And it really started out as a side project. It was something that I was just trying to work on the side when, we were in lockdown and couldn't go anywhere and do anything. And I really wanted to provide mental health support to racialized communities. And I started just, speaking with friends who were psychologists and psychotherapists, and then taking courses on, building digital platforms, building apps. And that's how it really started. And then I would say it really just turned into a really necessary community tool. And because of that traction is why I continued it. That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I feel like the fact that it's sort of started off as an idea and then you've built it into what it is today. Like, guys, if you've not checked out the Althea Therapy app, I would highly recommend it. Go on the page and just look at all of the great stuff that they do. Because, yeah, I'm genuinely blown away by it. Like, even just I'm deviating a bit, but even just building an app, like, what's that experience been like? Like, has that been something that, does it require a lot of coding, all of that? I'm literally I know nothing about app development and I'm just always fascinated by it.
Honestly, I would say with the advancements in AI right now, it's probably significantly easier. And I also took a relatively simpler route. I did a lot of no code. I then, work with consultants and integrated a lot of other platforms into my app.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like now there's so many AI platforms, you could probably build it far faster than me.
Really, I might have to check out some of those. So yeah, I guess mine is a bit different. So I started about 5 years ago. I literally just fell into it. I would plan events for fun. So where other people thought that event planning was stressful, I found it fun. I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, see someone's birthday, Shay, do you want to plan it? Yeah, why not? And I enjoyed planning things for my events and my birthdays. And then I had a friend who was getting married and I'd planned his engagement dinner. And then he was just like, oh, do you know what? Why don't you plan the wedding? And I was like, I never like
That's
thought
an
about.
honor.
Yeah, well, yeah, and to be fair, I think I've always been like, it's gonna sound really cheesy, but I genuinely have always been a sucker for love and all of that good stuff. So for me, it kind of went hand in hand. I never really explored weddings per se, but I thought, yeah, do you know what? That this actually speaks to what I like, what I would like to do. So yeah, I just took the plunge really. Started training. I was like shadowing other wedding planners, seeing what they were doing, like thinking about things that I really enjoyed and what I would want to incorporate into my business. And then from doing my friend's wedding, actually, funny enough, even though my friend's wedding was the first official, no, the first wedding that I had officially booked, it wasn't the first wedding I actually did. So I actually did two weddings before his one. So it was almost like I got like two opportunities before actually doing his one, which was, yeah, it was a very interesting experience. But yeah, I wouldn't say that there was like a strong inspiration per se. It was just more something that I thought that I was good at, that I didn't realize could be a business that I actually was passionate about, and then I was able to turn it into something.
I think that's a really important way to move into entrepreneurship,
Mm.
honestly, is like identifying your skills and things that you already like to do
Yeah.
and then building that into a business.
I always say that, and I'm a strong advocate because, especially when people always like, oh, but what can I do as a side hustle? And people sometimes want to try things. Like, I've had friends that have done things because they thought that's the thing to do, but they don't enjoy it. They don't have the passion for it. So, therefore, it doesn't last that long. So, I'm always like, just, yeah, if it is something that you know that you're naturally good at, it's going to be easier because it's not going to feel like work because you're naturally good at it. And then if you enjoy it, it's even more of a bonus. So, I'm a strong advocate for if you are thinking of a side hustle, try to think of something that speaks to who you are, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next question we got is, what are some of the things that happen behind the scenes that help keep your business up and running? The things that are not so visible.
The first thing that comes to mind with that question is that a lot of entrepreneurs are like a jack of all trades. You are, the marketing director, your software developer, HR, social media manager, sales. And I think not a lot of people have a really good understanding for how much work that is, and that there's one person running around doing everything and playing all parts. And obviously, ideally, that's not what you want to be doing. But that's the reality a lot of times, especially when you're in an early stage.
Yeah.
And when I think of when I first started, I had, organizations or people that I was speaking to who would say things like, can you get your comms person to like pull this together? Or like, can you get your tech person to update X, Y, and Z? And I'd be like, definitely, we'll get on that. And it's just me. So I think understanding that is a big thing.
100%. I 100% co-sign that. I think that people don't realize how many hats you have to wear, particularly. And I think, as well, when it's your business, it's your baby. No one's going to really be as passionate about it as you are. So yeah, same as you. For me, it was particularly in the beginning, I was doing everything by myself, like everything, down to, and even up till now. So down to when I, have weddings and I have clients and stuff, it's me doing all of the liaison. So as much as there might be a team that comes on the day that executes the wedding with me, it's me doing everything from like the beginning all the way up until the end. And it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort, a lot of phone conversations, a lot of admin. So yeah, there's a lot of those type of things that people don't see. You might see like the little cute wedding video at the end, but you're not going to really see all of that hard graft that happens behind the scenes. So yeah, I'd definitely agree with that one.
Yeah.
The next question is, and I get this one a lot, is your business something you are hoping you will go into full time? So give reasons as to why or why not.
I think personally, not necessarily. I consider myself now really multi-passionate. I didn't start this business with the intention of leaving my full-time job. And I think because it started as this project, I don't feel compelled to have to do both. And I think a lot of times in the entrepreneurial landscape, a lot of people become entrepreneurs because they want to leave their full-time job, which makes a lot of sense. But for me, it's not. I love my full-time job. I love working in the climate and ocean space. I love what I do in the mental health space. So for me, I think it really just depends on what happens. If I get a really great opportunity to take Althea Therapy full-time, then that's what I'll consider in that moment.
Yeah.
But I don't feel compelled to take it full-time.
Yeah, I'm the same, guys. I'm not gonna lie. And people ask me this all the time. I think it's probably the most asked question. People always very much. I think it's that assumption that if you're doing a business, you want to work for yourself, you want to be an entrepreneur. But I honestly think that like it's entrepreneurship to me is a little overrated. I do like the stability of having my 9 to 5 job, and I like my day job. I actually like what I do as a career. I like the career that I've built, and I'm really proud of it. So I like you. I didn't start it thinking, yep, one day I want to quit doing financial crime and I want to just like focus on weddings. If, you know, my wedding business took off to a place where I just didn't expect and it made sense to do it full time, then I would consider it. But it's not something that I'm working towards in any capacity. I'm not building my business in a way where it's like, yeah, I definitely want to do that full time. No, I think there's so many other things and other passion projects I have as well. So I feel like I wouldn't want to box myself into one thing. There's so many different things or so many layers to me that are different things that I'd want to do.
Yeah.
So 100% agree with that.
I think I'd also say is a lot of times another thing that I hear that I also like understand is that people want to be their own boss.
Yeah.
Which, you know, comes with a lot of responsibility. But I think for me personally, I with Althea Therapy, I love being my own boss because it's something that's, like you said, my baby that I, you know, built from the ground up.
Yeah.
But I actually love having really strong leadership.
Yep.
So I'm more than happy to learn from somebody and work for somebody who I think is a really great leader. I like constantly learning from people. And even in entrepreneurship, you have mentors, you have advisors who can help with that as well. So I think there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 job.
Sorry, guys.
Do you need to?
Okay. Sorry, no, you did come.
No, there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 job and having a boss. I think it's they have their pros and cons.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I've never been. To be honest, I think I understand to some degree why people think like that. I do understand the be your own boss concept, and I understand that you want to do something and you just do that. Because sometimes it is a lot, like having to juggle the two. So I do understand the like, but I like them both so much that I want to do them both, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. No, I think it makes perfect sense.
The next question is, what are some of your top tips for success in balancing a business and a full-time job?
So I think, you know, first of all, I say I do this with difficulty. But I think an important thing to consider is obviously time management skills, but time management where you make space for rest. Because a lot of times people confuse productivity with busyness.
Yeah. You can be busy doing nothing.
Exactly. And so you really don't want to be wasting your time on these small tasks. Your whole day goes by and you have not actually really achieved anything. I think I would also say automate as much as possible, so that you're taking out all of those like little admin tasks or anything that you can that takes away like tedious tasks. Automate it as much as you can. I would also say hire as early as you can, but hire with intention. Because like you said, it is your business and you want to bring on the right people who are going to understand your vision and be able to execute that the way that you envision it, right? The way that you see it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to spend time trying to bring people on, whether it's consultants. And if you know, are at a stage where you can hire full-time employees, do that. But I would say spend time hiring. Don't hire quickly, but like spend time on your hires. And fire quickly. If they're not a good fit, like, and you realize that, I would say get rid of people quickly, but spend time in the hiring process to ensure you're bringing on the right people.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I think I would say, I mean, the way I sort of do it is I structure my weeks in a particular way. So I'll have like certain evenings that are dedicated to weddings. So let's say, for example, a Wednesday evening, I know that, okay, that's when I do all my wedding meetings with my clients, or that's when I'll do my admin. That's just like an example. But what I'm very, very intentional about is to balance it well. For me, it's making sure that you're showing up properly for both of those things. So when I'm at work, I can't be thinking about weddings, or I can't be thinking, I might be thinking about it, let me not lie, because that's just me. But I'm not going to be doing my wedding stuff like while I'm at work. When I'm at work, I need to show up in my entirety and I need to perform well and and do well. And then when I'm doing things for my wedding business, the same thing. So it's about like ensuring that I'm giving enough in all aspects of what I'm doing so that I'm showing up effectively. And that way I'm not spending more time than I need to on either thing. So for me, I think that helps. And then, yeah, like I try and structure my weeks in a way where I'll have a day where that's just rest. Like I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not talking to no one. And then I might have a day that's just about doing wedding tasks. And then work, when I'm at work, I'm at work. So I like, as much as I am very responsive with my clients and stuff, but I'm very like at work. So any tasks, unless it's like super time sensitive, I'm not going to be doing it like while I'm at work. So I try to like make sure, because when I first started the business, let me not lie, I wasn't like that. So when I first started, I really thought I could just do it all. So I might get an email come through to do something for a client, and then my boss is asking me to do something, and I'm like trying to literally do both at the same time. And it's like, well, I can't come and kill myself. Yeah. And I think that it also just meant that things were falling short because I wasn't performing to a standard that I needed to at work. And then maybe I'm not showing up the way I need to for my clients either, because I'm trying to do too much. But everything has its place and everything has its time. So for me, I just made sure that, okay, the time I set aside for weddings, I use that time effectively. When I'm at work, I get on with my work so that it's not spilling into my evening to the point where I'm now doing my work in my evening and I can't do my wedding stuff. So for me, it's just about making sure that I'm being as productive as possible in both aspects, if that makes sense, so that they're not overlapping and then I'm not now getting stressed and overwhelmed. I think that's
great. A really great point.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add to that. But no, I think you really covered it, especially when you spoke about automation. So for me, like I said, I was doing everything myself. And it's only in the last, I want to say last maybe 6 months, I think it's been, where I've actually like got somebody like within my team that helps me with admin. And I didn't realize how much of a game changer that would be. And I know that you guys are probably thinking, come on, that's basic. But I honestly didn't realize how much time it would save, because in my mind, I've always just looked at it like, well, I do this, so it makes sense for me to send the emails. It makes sense for me to do this and do that. Once I outsourced that, I was like, wow, I have so much time to do other stuff. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, when you think about it, when you know, sometimes people think, okay, well, I could just do it myself. I'd rather save the money. But honestly, I just think that peace of mind is priceless. And having like time to yourself is priceless. There's so much other things you could be doing with that time than spending on some of these tasks that actually you can outsource. So now I'm like looking at, you know, what else can I outsource? Like after having that experience, I'm like, what else can I give to someone else to do? You know, maybe there might be someone that might want to do my social media for me. You know, maybe there's someone that might want to edit my videos for me. Like, what else can I do doesn't mean that I have to now put my time into it.
I think, you know, an important point that I learned the hard way, and I still have to remind myself of, is you should be working on your business, not in it. And it is work on it, not in it. Like you should not be playing every single role.
Yeah.
You should be finding ways to scale, increasing sales, revenue, like be that person. And it can be difficult letting go of all the little pieces. But I think once you've let go a little bit and you see how much time you get back, and also you're more productive when you are not doing everything.
Exactly.
So I think it's a game changer.
100%. Yeah. I think that, yeah. We're giving you these gems for free, you know. The next question. So people often glamorize entrepreneurship. What are some of the pain points of balancing a business and a full-time job?
Oh my God.
Do we really want to tell them?
There are so many. I have to think about this. So I feel like I constantly try and remind people how difficult entrepreneurship is on its own. Balancing that with a full-time job is very difficult, to say the least. I think firstly is remembering, number one, like starting a business comes with a lot of upfront costs. So you have to recognize, that it's going to cost you a lot of money, and you have to be willing to put it up if you have it, or looking for loans and different things like that. And also believing in your business that you can make that back. You know, like don't start a business, take out all these loans if you don't think that you can achieve that, or you're not willing to put in the time and effort to do that. I think maybe secondly is, particularly in the early stages of starting a business, you will spend all of your time building it and setting things up and setting up systems, or, you know, operations, reaching out to people, trying to, you know, carve a space and being a leader in that space takes a lot of time up front. And maybe, you know, for others, maybe that's not the case. Maybe you're already involved in the space a little bit, so, you know, you may have less effort in, you know, showing up as a leader in the space or something like that. But in general, I would say a lot of upfront work, which will take up a lot of your time, a lot of upfront costs. Um, yeah, that's what I can think of for the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think just touching on the upfront cost bit, I think not, not, I don't want to say not doing your research, but I don't even know if this is like a pain point or more of a mistake that I made, but just one I thought I'd share is that I sort of started off my business understanding that I'm new to the wedding industry. So if I'm, you know, wanting to plan someone's wedding and I've not planned someone's wedding before, I appreciate I probably can't charge what someone who's been planning weddings for like 4 or 5 years will charge. But what I didn't think about was that I should still be charging enough to cover my expenses. As basic as that sounds, it just didn't cross my mind. I just kind of felt like by any means necessary, I wanted to get my portfolio up and stuff, that I didn't really consider that like I'm putting myself in the red by running the business in this way. I didn't really have a great strategy. I didn't really sort of forecast properly. There was just all these little things that I didn't think about that later caught up with me financially. So that's definitely something that could be a potential pain point if you haven't really thought about it. And like Mickey said, like if you are going to do things, you need to think about how you're going to get that money back. And actually forecast it properly. Like what are you going to charge? Like, you know, how are you going to just like profit and loss and all that type of stuff. I didn't do any of that. I literally just was going in with vibes. So yeah.
Sorry, you know what it also reminds me of that I think a lot of people take for granted is making sure that you have product market fit before you launch a business. Because sometimes you might have like a really cool idea, but you have no market. Nobody is buying.
Literally.
Right. And I've heard lots of really great ideas, but they did not have the market. And so they spent a ton of money building their product or building their service, and it did not take off, even though it was a decent idea.
Yeah.
So you have to really spend the time. It's like what you're mentioning about research. Spend the time researching to make sure you have a market before you launch any idea.
100%. 100%. I'm trying to think of like other pain points. It kind of touches on what I was talking about before when we spoke about like tips for success, which is kind of almost going to counteract what I said. But because it's your business and because like it's your job as well, you're going to always be thinking about it. You don't get to switch off. So as much as we're saying like, yes, make sure that you prioritize rest, like you should, but you don't get to just decide like, okay, yeah, today I just don't want to think about this. So I just don't want to like, who else is going to? It's literally your business. So yes, you might have people that work for you or people who can execute certain things, but it's always something that's going to be at the forefront of your mind. And if you're not someone that's good at managing a competing set of priorities, then you might struggle. So I'd say that can be a pain point because it's just constant spinning plates. That's the best way to describe it. I always say I feel like I'm spinning plates all the time. I belong in a circus. Like genuinely. Like that's honestly how I feel like I live my life.
No, it's actually a really good analogy. Thinking about my life. Well, yeah. But you know what also comes to mind is, and this I guess depends on the individual, but when you have a business, you have to constantly be putting yourself out there. And I hate that. Like I hate like having my face everywhere for my business. I just like any entrepreneur probably just like wants their business to succeed just, you know, because of, you know, what it is and what it stands for. I hate that I have to make video. I love podcasts, but I hate that I have to make videos of myself on my social media. And I don't enjoy that aspect of it. But I have to lean into it and see the value in it and realize that it's my own insecurity and I have to show up every day if I want my business to succeed. And I think that's also a good reminder. Like you have to be willing to put yourself out there and talk about your business and share it. And ask for the sale. There's a lot.
Yeah, and it can be quite cringy sometimes as well, especially like when you feel like you're really trying to like market yourself. And I think in the industry I'm in, particularly with like wedding planning and coordination, we don't have anything sort of there that we can show to say, so like, you know, for example, if I was a photographer or if I baked a cake, I can show my previous work. With me, my previous work is either recommendations, me telling you what I've done and really selling myself about what I've done. Or if you happen to have been at a wedding that I've done and you thought, oh, wow, that went really well, I want to use her. So that can be quite difficult. So we really have to go hard on putting ourselves out there. And that's something that I also really struggle with, particularly around the social media aspect. I didn't realize how big of a deal social media is in terms of putting, like, I almost 6 months not posting anything on my wedding business page. I was still doing weddings, but I just don't have the, I don't even say I don't have the time. I'm not like passionate about like posting stuff all the time. And then I remember speaking to a client, and she said that whenever she was looking at wedding vendors for her wedding, if people hadn't posted in a certain amount of time, she just assumed that they weren't in business or that they weren't active. And I thought, oh my God, so look how many people probably went on my page and thought that I wasn't active when I'm really out here doing weddings. And then I was like, okay, no, I need to actually keep doing that. So yeah, it's just constantly remembering that you don't get the luxury, I guess, of just being like, yeah, no, can't be bothered to do this. You've just got to constantly keep going, constantly keep putting yourself out there. And that can be overwhelming when you've got to think about that, and you've got a full-time job that you need to show up for, and you need to do well at work, and you don't want to make sure that you're like missing any targets or deadlines at work. You want to show up as your best self. So imagine you've got literally 2 areas of your life that you need to really show up for, and you can't really drop the ball on either of them. So I would say that can be a bit of a pain point.
That's a good point.
Have you had any major learning curves during your journey, or things you wish you had done differently?
So many. What? So many. Learning curves. Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe the first one I would say is assuming that people won't buy at a certain price or won't buy because they don't have the money. So I
What do you
think,
mean by that? Like, in what sense?
as in, like, it's addressing your own money beliefs, right? So if you have like a scarcity mindset in terms of money, you think that there's not enough going around. Like, people don't have money, so I have to undercharge,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Or maybe not charge at all in some aspects.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And so understanding, and this kind of touches on what you were saying earlier, understanding that you need to charge your value, and believing in the value that your service or product is going to provide,
Yeah.
and addressing your money beliefs, and that, money is abundant. It is all out there. There's lots of it. So just making sure that you're targeting the right clients who will buy from you. So I think it's that aspect of undercharging, because I've, originally felt like I wasn't established enough. I have to keep it cheap.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily do that, but you find other ways. Like, for instance, with my community, I want to support Black, Indigenous, and racialized people. And a lot of times in the mental health space, the biggest barrier is cost. So I need to be able to provide this to them that in a way that it's accessible, right? So for instance, with our app, it's free for clients, right? So they can come on and they can search. There's no cost for them. And it's a really reasonable price for therapists as well. For our online learning programs, I offer scholarships and I get businesses to sponsor those, so I find ways to provide it at no cost, or that in a really accessible way. So there are always going to be ways that you can support your community, if that's what you're concerned about. And I think that was a big thing for me, and it's something that I still struggle with. So I would say that's one thing. A second one is maybe, and I'm a little bit conflicted about this because I do think it's still really good advice, but it's sharing your business before it's ready. So I think sometimes this can be really excellent advice, depending on the person, depending on the business. I think for me, I got this advice when I was still building my app, and I just thought I'd take any advice that people give to me at the start, because I did not come from a business background. I didn't come from a marketing background. And I felt like I should have waited a little bit longer and built out a few things better before launching, before sharing it, because I would have felt more prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think because, I didn't have that business background, like I said, it started as a project. So had I spent a bit more upfront time, understanding a lot of those things, building a little bit more, I think that I would have felt more prepared, and I think I would have had a stronger launch. And what other learning curves? There's so many to choose from.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm just like, yeah, I can really, really, really relate, especially about the putting yourself out there too quickly. I feel like if I'd taken my time to understand the market that I was going into, I would have, one, realized that people spend a lot of money on weddings. So I didn't, not that I shouldn't have made it affordable, but I didn't need to like almost make it like I might as well have just not charged any money basically with the money I was charging. So it didn't need to be like that. Yes, I'm newer, so of course I'm not going to charge the same as somebody who's more established, but I shouldn't have felt like that pressure to like keep the cost so low to my own detriment. It should have always been at a minimum, at least let me cover my expenses, my team's expenses, all these types of things. I just hadn't thought about any of that. So yeah, I really love that one.
Yeah, because I think a lot of my learning curve comes down to like not being in the entrepreneurial mindset, I think. Because when I started mine, again, it was a project. So, I didn't realize right away, oh, I have to register my business. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, it is a business, And so there was a lot of things like that I wish I had, like probably got a mentor or an advisor a lot earlier on, and thought through like business planning long term, and prepared myself a lot better for, thinking through like cash flow, thinking through like what are some sustainable pricing or sustainable activities that we should be doing, and being a lot more prepared in that aspect, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to think of some of mine. Maybe I've become desensitized to the pain. No, I think kind of one that we've been speaking about in terms of just not pricing correctly. That was definitely the biggest learning curve for me. Because I definitely went a significant amount of time where the business wasn't actually making any money. So yeah, it's like me and my one of my other wedding planner friends, we always joke about it. We're like, it was just becoming an expensive hobby, because we were both could relate. We were both similar in like our pricing and stuff, and we're saying this isn't a business. This is just an expensive hobby, and that's not what you want. Like yes, everybody has to start from somewhere, but the business has to make sense. So it took me some time to, I guess, bounce back from that. I think my other thing as well was not really believing that. I was going to say something really controversial just then, just to claw it back. But yeah, I think mine is maybe not realizing that like not everybody has the same heart as you in the way they do things. So therefore, you have to act as a professional and not as a friend. So like what I mean by that is like contracts. So I very much just assume that everybody out there is really nice. Everybody out there is great. Everybody is like, friendly. Everyone's like me. And, I don't need to have all of this like clunky stuff in my contract. Just need to have the basic things in there and I'll be protected. No. You just never know like what you might face. And not even necessarily that people will do anything to you, but especially doing something like weddings, like anything can happen like on the day. Like, you need to make sure that your team's protected. You need to make sure that you're protecting yourself from like bad behavior and anything that might go wrong on the day, not being liable for certain things. I think liability was a big thing that I didn't really consider in my contract at all, because it just didn't occur to me that anyone could ever blame me for anything. So, and when you've been like in the business for a long time and everything's been fine, you've just doesn't cross your mind. And I didn't realize how much my contract left me exposed to. So I think that was a huge steep learning curve for me in terms of just making sure that my terms were very strict, not even strict, sorry, but just that they were fair and that they protected me and protected the clients. Whereas before it was just a contract to have a contract. It wasn't like something that was really thought out and very applicable to all of the activities that you have to undertake as a wedding planner and everything that goes into that and the potential things that could or couldn't go wrong, etc. So yeah, that was a very big learning curve for me, but a necessary one, I think. But yeah, I think that just like understand like what is like some of the legal terminology around the business that you're trying to get into. What are the things that you need to think about? You don't want to put yourself into trouble before you've even started the business because you've not thought about any legal implications that you needed to consider in the way in which you're running it. So all of that sort of stuff.
It's a really important one, actually.
Yeah, definitely like a big learning curve. I'm making it sound like I got sued. I didn't, guys, I promise. But yeah, I definitely learned a lot in terms of just like revamping my contract. And now it's like I actually went and actually sought expert advice. I actually got a lawyer to look at it, and just like she read it and she was just like, yeah, like there's so much that you don't have in here that could like leave you exposed. So she just like helped me like write and draft a new one. So things like that, don't be afraid as well to like seek advice from people who are professionals in what they do. Don't feel like you need to also know these things. I didn't know anything. I don't know nothing about contracts. I can read one and I can reasonably tell if a contract is fair, but there's so many like layers to it that I didn't know. And yeah, I think it's okay to like reach out to professionals to help you with stuff like that.
100%.
So, definitely a learning curve I learned as well in terms of just like, I don't always have the answers. So it's okay to seek that counsel from others who actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The next question is, how do you manage to remain motivated to perform well at work and in business? I don't.
Yeah, I'm not, this isn't a great one for me, like it's only because I'm like,
I
personally,
feel like motivation is a myth,
That's what I was going to say. Personally, I don't feel like you
Yeah.
need motivation to do good work. You need to be consistent. Um, and I don't believe in that either. I just
Yeah.
think you have to show up and be consistent every day. If you make a promise to yourself, you commit to that and you stick to that.
Hmm.
And I think as you continue to see results after you stay consistent, it's what keeps you going.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say there's any sort of motivation other than wanting to see your business succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely don't think, I think motivation is a myth, because most of the times, like if you're waiting to be motivated to continue to do things, you're not going to do most things. I think it's about discipline. I think
Mhm.
it's about discipline and, like you say, just having that commitment to fulfilling whatever it is that you want to do. And I think it's also one, like for me, I feel like there's a certain standard of myself that I want to uphold at work and in my business. So because of that, I try to make sure that I maintain a certain standard so that I am doing well at work and that I am doing well in my business. So I think for me, it's like that sort of trumps anything else. Even if I have feelings when I can't be bothered or I'm tired or I'm this and I'm that, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be going at work and giving some slapdash presentation, or, you know, I don't want to like get on a client call and I'm like, you know, not giving the energy I need to, or submitting some documents and it's, you know, not of good quality. So I think it's all about as well, if you have a certain standard for yourself and the things that you do, that will sort of take, I would say that takes precedent over feeling motivated, for
Mhm.
me anyway. So the last question that we have is highlights of your career and business journey so far.
So for my career, I don't know if for either of them, I don't know if there's any one major highlight, but there are like nice moments.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I'll say for my career, which now doesn't seem as big, but I think it's a really nice thing, is in the climate space, um, being able to attend one of the major like climate conferences that are part of the UN, the UN climate conferences. The last one last year, which was COP27, was in Egypt.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and so being able to go to Egypt and attend this conference and then present at it was a really big deal for me in my career, and presenting these two reports that I worked on. And so I think that was a really major highlight. And I think particularly because, before I moved to Europe and, now the UK, working in Canada, a lot of the work I did there was really national focused. So it was only about Canada or the province that you're in. Um, and so it felt a little bit limiting at times. It's still really great work, but I was really interested in working more at an international scale and on international climate policies. And so having the opportunity to go to that conference was, I think, a really nice moment for me.
Love that.
Yeah, and then maybe in my business, so there are nice things like, competing in pitch competitions and winning grants, which are, fantastic and a real privilege. But I think the moments that I've really liked are when people actually send me a DM and tell me what Althea Therapy has meant to them, or what, they've gotten out of it, or people who've taken our programming, which is called like the Reclaim program, who took that program and then shared what they learned from it. And so for me, it just validates the importance of culturally responsive mental health support and what our programming is doing,
Mm.
and the approach that we take to it. So I think that's really a beautiful experience and a humbling experience, because you realize what you're creating has value and people see value in that. And so that's what I would go with.
I love that. How do I top that, guys? I don't
You can very
know.
easily top that.
I don't know. I think the highlight of my career journey, honestly, I don't think I've peaked yet. I still think that there's more
I love that.
levels. I still think that there's more that I can definitely achieve. And I think there's definitely more that I am yet to do. But I'd say the things that maybe stand out, I got to go to South Africa for a project a few years back, and it was quite early on in my financial crime career journey, actually. So it was a big achievement for me then, because I almost envisioned myself doing something like that now at the level that I'm at. And back then, I wasn't even at the level that I'm at. So yeah, it was like I'd say that was like a highlight of my career. I always remember it. I had such a great experience. I met some great people. It was such a great project to be a part of. And I do feel that that experience really propelled my overall career journey from that moment, just having that experience. So yeah, that definitely stands out for me. And I think just getting to a point of senior leadership as a Black woman, like I don't think that there's many or at least at the time that I had gotten into my role, I didn't see many other Black women in senior leadership positions like mine, particularly in my area. Like my like the financial crime space, I would say, was quite male dominated initially and white male dominated, particularly at senior levels, especially at banks and things like that. You often found like the senior person in financial crime was probably a middle-aged white man. And now I think that there's definitely a lot more representation in the compliance and financial crime space in general. So yeah, just to know that I'm a part of that. And sometimes I'll get messages from people on LinkedIn saying like, I've never seen a Black woman in a senior leadership position, or I've never seen a Black head of department before. And I'm like, it's sad. I mean, I'm glad that I'm showing you that it's possible, but it's sad that that is the case, you know? So as much as I feel like, you know, I'm part of that and I'm grateful, but it's also sad that that's the case. So yeah, I think that for me, just knowing that I'm helping other people who look like me to see that this is possible and that they can get there, I think is really, really nice. And I think, you know, piggybacking off of all of my career stuff is how Slay with Shay was born. So it sort of came from like wanting to provide career advice and giving people like mentorship opportunities and just sharing more about my career journey and what's worked for me, and like, yeah, just being able to like give back in that way, and people reaching out to me for genuine career advice and seeing them propel in their career as a result. Like, there's so many people that have like reached out to me on my YouTube channel, or they've emailed me and I've like helped them with their CVs, and they'll come back and say, oh, I've got this job now, I've got that job, or we'll do interview preps, or some of them I've even brought on to companies where I've worked. So just, I guess, like seeing that, okay, my title is not just for me just to enjoy and just be there. It's like I actually get to impact people's lives as well. I think for me that is a major highlight and something that I hope continues.
I want to say also, one thing that I love about you is that you don't gatekeep.
Oh,
You honestly share as much as you can to help people enter the field, or like not make the same mistakes as you, or like to put them on to something. And I find a lot of times, particularly sometimes in marginalized communities, we don't share because we want to be the only one who gets there, and it's so detrimental. So having more people like you not gatekeeping is really important for uplifting us as a community. So I think it's really important.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Because yeah, it's a big thing for me. Because I feel like when I was navigating my career, I didn't really have that. Like I didn't really have people. And to be fair, maybe I didn't look, but I didn't actually really see anyone that I felt that I could go to genuinely ask, like, how do I get to where you are? And them come back to me and tell me exactly how they did it. Like that just wasn't really out there. And like you say, I don't want people to feel like it's just this like super niche thing and it's not attainable. It 100% is. So no, I really appreciate you saying that. Trying to think of for the business. To be honest, my highlights are every time I do weddings. Every wedding is a highlight for me because I think that it's a life event, and you know, God willing, they're not going to have that again. So it's like just knowing that I was a part of their journey in some capacity, and like, you know, all my couples I still have great relationships with now. You know, you go on, you see them like have their children, and then they'll like message me, or I'll come and see them. Some of them I'm still friends with. We still have great relationships with. Some of them are my actual friends as well. So it's like I've not only built great friendships with people, but then also been part of their journeys in that way. Like there's, yeah, I think every wedding to me is a highlight because I think it's such a significant milestone event to be part of in someone's life, and people trusting you to do that, I don't take that lightly. So yeah, I would say every wedding is a milestone for me.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. That is all of our questions, guys. Mickey, thank you so much for taking the time to come and have this conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. I could actually sit and listen to you talk all day. You got a really nice talking voice, you know.
Stop it. Within the last like 2 months, I've had like 7 to 8 different people tell me I should start a podcast.
No, you really should.
Podcast voice.
You so have she has a podcast.
Somebody bring me on your
comment
podcast.
below, guys. Comment below if Mickey should start her own podcast, because you really do. I could literally just sit there and listen to you talk all the time.
You're far too kind.
But no, thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Make sure that you are following Althea Therapy. I'll put all of the details in the description box below. So make sure you check out all of the fantastic work that they are doing. And please do share your support. Please do like, comment and subscribe. And if you have any questions on anything that we have discussed today, or if you have questions for Micheline about Althea Therapy or climate change or anything like that, please do drop a comment below. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.